The internet has a strange way of turning ordinary people into viral sensations. And every once in a while, it finds someone who feels a bit off. Someone who's 37 years old, but tells the entire world he looks like a teenager.
Dude, I'm just turned 18 and people think I'm 28. Wow, happy birthday, by the way. 18-year-old is still young. So tell me, when you turn 18 as well? What do you mean 18? I'm 37. You look like teenager!
His name is Luan Oliveira, and for a while, he was just a meme. A guy you'd see on your For You page, laugh at, and scroll past. But the more people watched, the more disturbing they became. Luan Oliveira is a Brazilian content creator and self-described model. His TikTok account dates back to March 31st, 2023. His first uploads sitting quietly on the platform with no much traction. In those early days, he made video skits, most of them centered around relationships.
So, if you think I'm handsome, why don't you stay with me? Are you scared of your friends? Think you so idiot?
The views were low, the comments even lower. And when users did comment, many of them weren't about the videos themselves, but about the way he spoke. The way he spoke English.
For those who criticize my accent, listen up. There are a million people in Brazil, the 5% can speak English. 5% can speak English. I'm one of them. My English is one of the best ever. Don't try putting me down.
So he shifted, started making videos responding directly to those comments, leaning into the reaction, turning the criticism into content.
Yeah, congratulations. Keep it up, you idiot. You get there where I am. Because you pay so high, don't get results. My English is one of the best. You need to go back to school and learn it properly, idiot.
That got him some traction, but the numbers were still not very consistent. The moment everything changed was when he started making videos about looking 17 and being a model. That's when the views stopped trickling and started flooding. Consistent, massive, international. And the entire premise of his online identity locked into place around that single claim. At the time of making this video, he has about 180,000 followers on TikTok and more than 12.8 million likes. His content formula revolves entirely around one idea: that he is a man in his late 30s who looks like a teenager. As you can see, he posts videos with captions like 37 years old male model who looks 17, dancing to 2000s music, pulling faces at the camera, doing the kind of effortful, cool kid energy you'd expect from someone half his age. And the comments exploded. TikTok users in Brazil, Europe, the US, all sharing and reacting. But if you spend any time in his comment sections, it becomes pretty clear that a large part of his audience doesn't quite see it that way. The videos spread quickly, with people treating it more like a joke than actually agreeing with him. The internet was openly making fun of him. Bro looks 10 years older than me, and I'm 40, LOL. 17 years sober. The best part is that he doesn't even look 37 either. Just those two comments alone pulled in over 200,000 likes. But he didn't seem to care. He kept going. Because at the end of the day, he was getting exactly what he wanted: attention. But here's where something shifts. Comments like, "This is satire, right? Please, someone tell me this is a parody of something I missed. I fear I am confused. I don't understand. He looks 36. Is this a joke? Please tell me this is a joke." People aren't just laughing. Some are genuinely unsure where the performance ends. They can see he doesn't look 17, but something about the commitment to it, the way he leans into acting like a teenager, skipping down the street, making faces at the camera, responding to people like an actual teen would. It sits in an uncomfortable place. Funny, then strange, then something else.
Embarrassed for you.
Your voice changed right now, Ellie, when you talk
And
to
while the broader internet was busy debating whether he was being serious or not, something else was happening in his live streams, aimed specifically at an international English-speaking audience he had been deliberately building toward. Hold that thought. Despite being born and raised in northeastern Brazil, most of his content is in English. His videos are almost entirely aimed at an English-speaking international audience, with English captions, English titles, and comment sections filled with people from different countries. According to what he said himself in his live streams, he wanted to leave Brazil. He talked about being unhappy there, about the government, about opportunities, about wanting a different life. And so he began deliberately targeting an international audience, presenting himself to people who had no context for who he was. That's the version of himself he exported to the world. At one point, he even compared himself to Justin Bieber and Leonardo DiCaprio as a young man. Some people in the comments found the act funny, but others seemed genuinely confused, not sure where the joke ended. And that confusion, it turns out, was more revealing than the people making those comments knew. The theory being floated was that the entire I Look 17 brand was never really about vanity. That presenting yourself as a teenager, consistently, obsessively, across every platform, was less about ego and more about access to a specific kind of audience. Now, during the second half of 2025, Luan began interacting regularly with a North American girl who would enter his streams frequently. The girl was 14 years of age. The interactions had a tone that people watching described as a flirt, ambiguous, playful in a way that felt off. At one point, he comments on the girl's voice, telling her she's changing her tone when she talks to him. The girl's response was that she was copying his accent.
Your voice changed right now, Ellie. When you talk to me, your voice changed immediately.
Yeah, because oh my god. Dude.
No, my God, that is not my God. Only to you know. Every time when we talk, you change your voice.
Yes, because I'm copying your accent.
No,
That's what I
it's
do.
because. Hey, smart. It's
Yes,
because you flirt with me as well.
That exchange alone made people watching uncomfortable. A man who presents himself as a teenager, commenting on how a 14-year-old girl sounds when she talks to him. Later, in one of those same streams, Luan picked up a doll. He said it belonged to his daughter. The doll was dressed in children's clothing, and then he made a disturbing comment.
You like it?
Yeah, looks better than she looks pretty younger than you.
I feel so.
Old.
Stop saying that. I love it when girls dress like that because this is make.
Ew, that's something kids wear, Luan. That's gross.
No, I mean I'm feel so good because you know.
That's literally Luan. That's a child's outfit.
And then a man entered the live stream. He came on not to chat, but to confront.
No, they need to grow up until 18.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for them to grow whenever you're over here trying to grow up. You are a grown man. You should not be talking to a 14-year-old girl that you don't know.
Yes, I understand.
That is disgusting.
Now I know her. By the way.
No. I've seen other DMs.
Yes, I need you.
I know people you reach out to.
I need her help and everybody here, by the way, because I need to improve my English. I need to talk because I need to hear. I need to hear teenagers speak, adults speak, even if child, but child is not possible here.
Beyond the live streams, screen recordings of alleged direct messages began circulating online. Multiple of them showed conversations with this 14-year-old girl, and the tone of those exchanges raised serious concerns.
Talk to you later, okay? Nothing, I just want to hear your voice. If you were 18, I could date you. Probably I could make love with you, but unfortunately, you were shy.
The situation started to gain traction. What had once gone mostly unnoticed was now being discussed across multiple platforms. And eventually, Luan responded. In his statement, he dismissed the accusations, claiming the interactions were taken out of context. According to him, the conversations happened during live streams where he was simply trying to practice English, speaking with people who chose to join.
Recentemente tem uns babacas na internet falando mal de mim aí, dizendo que eu ando falando de menores. Cara, eu gravei um vídeo aleatoriamente, conversando em inglês com o pessoal lá fora, treinando em inglês. Essas mulheres se ofereceram para conversar em inglês, a gente estava treinando inglês. E não dizendo ao pessoal que eu estava recitando as garotas.
He denied any wrongdoing and argued that people were misinterpreting his intentions.
Mas infelizmente eu não sei quem gravou esse vídeo, levou esse vídeo ao ponto negativo, onde as pessoas acreditam que eu estava conversando com de menores. Eu gostaria que esses babacas da internet provassem que eu estou vendo pessoalmente esses de menor, eu conversando com esses de menor. Cara, foi só aquela live que eu fiz naquele dia, conversando, treinando em inglês. E os caras me xingam demais, cara, na internet. Eu acho que essas pessoas acham que eu tenho medo delas, algo do tipo assim. A única pessoa que eu converso todo dia é Jesus Cristo.
But for many watching, the explanation didn't line up with what was already out there. And there's something else worth going back to. Remember that guy who joined Luan's live stream to confront him? That interaction went on for a while, and at one point, Luan claimed that the girls had lied about their age.
And by the way, they lie first. They lie about the age. They say, I'm 18. But I felt I felt something off about her because, her voice, it's more shy than adult.
Okay.
I don't know.
But in another moment, from a different live stream, someone mentions that the girl is 14. Luan responds by saying she's 21. And when the girl herself spoke up, correcting him, he immediately shushed her.
Luan, she's 14. No, she's 21.
I'm not 21, I told you this.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Mais um influenciador investigado por aliciamento de menores. Luan Oliveira, conhecido por se apresentar como se fosse um adolescente, foi denunciado por personificação etária fraudulenta.
On March 18th, 2026, a deputy city councillor from São Paulo state files a formal criminal complaint. The allegations were serious. First, that Luan used platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube to approach and interact with minors while pretending to be 17 years old. Second, that he made sexually explicit statements during live stream broadcasts. And third, something more complex. What Brazilian authorities describe as fraudulent age impersonation. The idea that Luan's entire online persona, this I look 17 identity, wasn't only unusual, but also intentional. A way to gain the trust of teenagers and exist in their spaces without raising the kind of suspicion an adult normally would. Brazil's Federal Prosecution Service and federal police now hold the case. These are the same institutions that handle organized crime, terrorism, and major human rights investigations in Brazil. His accounts remained active at the time of making this video. No charges have been filed. No arrest has been made. No conviction exists. The case is being treated, as of now, as an open investigation at the federal level. When you go back and look at his content with fresh eyes, after going through all of this, it changes. The same videos that made people laugh now feel different. The fixation on the number 17, the targeting of teenage character aesthetics, the deliberate construction of an identity designed to make a nearly 40-year-old man feel like a peer to minors. We never truly know what's behind someone's screen, what their real intentions are, and what they're capable of. And when the signs are there, when something feels off, those signals matter. Because when they're ignored, things can go from disturbing to devastating. TikTok is a platform used by hundreds of millions of people across the world. And while Brazil was dealing with Luan Oliveira, on the other side of the Atlantic, in Spain, another story was unfolding on that same app, one that would shock an entire country. Spain is one of those countries that is very difficult to explain to someone who has never been there, and very difficult to forget by someone who has. It consistently ranks among the most visited nations on Earth, well above 80 million arrivals a year. And the reasons are not hard to understand. The cities, the coast, the food, the history that runs 3,000 years deep in places like Malaga. But not everyone who falls in love with Spain arrives from somewhere else. Some people are born there and find themselves drawn to it in the same way that visitors are. José Jurado Montilla was born in 1961 in Campanillas, a neighborhood on the western outskirts of Malaga. He grew up in that landscape, knew those roads and those mountain paths with the familiarity that comes from having walked them young. After a very long period of absence from the country he knew, he came back. He called himself Dinamita, a nickname that had followed him since he was young, and he had decided that he wanted to share what he was seeing with other people. At some point in the early 2020s, he opened a TikTok account. He began recording himself as he traveled. He would stop at a particular place and explain its history, the significance of a mountain pass, the age of a church, the way a particular valley had been settled. He described himself in his profile as an adventurer who starts from the belief that every person is unique. He also talked, with some regularity, about his own life, about having spent years away, about coming back to Spain and trying to make something of the time he had now, about wanting to experience the country at a pace that allowed him to actually see it. He said, in a number of videos, that he had been wrongly convicted of crimes he did not commit, and he was specific about this. He invited his audience to make up their own minds. His audience grew. Some of his posts accumulated hundreds of thousands of views, and the account built a following that appeared, by all accounts, to take him at his word. He was, to the people watching him, entirely what he presented himself as being. But before we go any further, we need to go back, actually, way back. Because this story did not start on TikTok. It started in a farmhouse in Malaga, on a November night in 1985. José was 24 years old, living in Puerto de la Torre, a district of Malaga. He later said he had gone out that evening to hunt foxes. His mother kept chickens, and foxes had been getting into them, and this was not an unusual activity in rural Malaga at the time. This was the explanation he gave when asked for what happened to his neighbor, a 57-year-old man named Francisco González. González was found dead inside his farmhouse in Almojía, a municipality in the hills above Malaga. His body had been covered with sacks. He had been killed by a shotgun wound. When the matter was eventually put to Montilla, he did not deny his involvement. He said that González had come at him with a shotgun, and that he had taken the weapon and fired in what he described as self-defense. No immediate arrest was made, and the case went unresolved for a time. He was still free when on the 15th of March 1987, a second body was found. This time in Campanillas, in a rural property. The victim was Antonio Paniagua Peral, 46 years old, a man who had worked as the personal chauffeur of Juanito Valderrama, one of the defining voices of Spanish flamenco. Before the month was out, 2 more bodies were discovered. 2 tourists, a British man named Peter Glenn and a German man named Klaus Schmucker, were found at their campsite near El Chorro. They had been shot and stabbed. They were, in other words, exactly the kind of travelers who come to that part of Spain every year. People who had made their way to that particular landscape for the same reasons people make their way there now. The Guardia Civil arrested Montilla on the 4th of May, 1987. He was tried and convicted of all 4 murders. He admitted only to the killing of Francisco Gonzalez, maintaining it had been self-defense, and denied the remaining 3 completely, a position he would hold for decades, telling a journalist many years later, "Everything that happened in that part of the country was blamed on me, even though I had absolutely nothing to do with it." The court found him guilty on all 4 counts. The sentence was 123 years in prison. He served 28 of them. In 2006, Spain's Supreme Court had put in place what became known as the Parot Doctrine, a principle designed to ensure that prisoners convicted of the most serious crimes remained incarcerated longer by changing the method by which sentence reductions were applied. Under it, Montilla would have remained behind bars for considerably longer than the standard maximum. But in October 2013, the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg ruled that the doctrine violated the right not to be subjected to a heavier penalty than the one in force at the time an offence was committed. The ruling had immediate application across Spain, and it applied to Montilla along with dozens of others. On December 13, 2013, José Jurado Montilla walked out of prison. He returned to Campanillas and spent close to a decade largely unnoticed, moving between rural areas with no fixed address. And then, in the early 2020s, he opened a TikTok account, turned a camera on himself, and began telling people who he was.
Hola amigo, ¿qué tal? Soy yo, el Dinamita. Acabo de descubrir una cosa y lo quiero contar.
What he chose to tell them, and what he chose to leave out, is where this story becomes something that is genuinely difficult to account for. On August 30th, 2022, a 21-year-old university student, David, was found on his family's farm in the Montes de Malaga, barely alive. He had been shot twice at close range with a shotgun, once in the back, and then a second time while he was already on the ground. His backpack had been opened, and his wallet and mobile phone had been taken. The day before he was found, David had spoken to his father. He mentioned that he had crossed paths with an older man who had struck him as strange and unsettling. The man had suggested they go out together to hunt foxes. David died from his injuries. The case was investigated and logged, and no arrest was made. It went cold, as cases sometimes do when there is no obvious suspect and not enough evidence to build from. It would remain cold for nearly 2 years. Esther Estepa was 42 years old and from Seville. She'd been going through a difficult period. Her family described her as having recently left a relationship they characterized as abusive. And she had decided, as people in difficult periods sometimes do, to move, to travel. She was an experienced hiker. She had been hiking along the Spanish Mediterranean coast for a long period, making her way through towns and along footpaths, staying in hostels and low-cost accommodation. She spoke to her mother, Josefa, every single day, by phone call, by WhatsApp message, by video call. Every day, without exception. In August of 2023, Esther was making her way along the coast of Valencia. She stopped at a hostel in Alicante, and it was there that she met José. He was, to her, what he appeared to be to his TikTok followers. An older man traveling Spain alone, engaged with what he was seeing, reflective in the way that his videos suggested, with the particular quality of someone who seemed to have thought carefully about life and arrived at some kind of equanimity.
El mar, con las motonáuticas, que también de cuando en cuando hacen su pasadita por ahí. Y bueno, he grabado algunos vídeos.
They spent several days traveling together, covering approximately 37 kilometers on foot, stopping at different points along the coast. At some stage, Esther had developed a problem with her leg and needed to visit a health center. Montilla later stated that the last time he saw Esther was on the 21st of August, that he had left her at the health center and that she had gone to meet friends. This was the account he gave to her family, and to investigators, and to his followers on TikTok. On August 23rd, Josefa, Esther's mother, received a series of WhatsApp messages from her daughter's number. "I can't keep lying to you. I don't have a job. I'm living on the street with 2 Argentine friends. I've lied to you many times. I'm broke. I'm going to lose my phone. I'll have to sell it for €50. I love you very much, but I've been a bad daughter. I'm leaving Spain to start a new life in Buenos Aires. Take care, Mum. Don't worry, I'm not lacking food or anything. My friends are real friends." Josefa read them and knew immediately that something was wrong. The language was not her daughter's. The tone was not right. She did not recognize Esther in those words at all. She contacted the police that same day, and Esther Estepa was officially reported missing. Now, in the days and weeks that followed Esther's disappearance, Montilla rang Josefa more than once, and in each call he expressed concern, asked about the investigation, offered information about the routes he and Esther had taken together, and presented himself as someone who shared the family's anxiety about what had happened and wanted to help resolve it. He posted videos of himself retracing the walks he and Esther had done, the same roads and paths. He addressed his followers directly, told them about the woman he had been traveling with who had gone missing, asked them to come forward if they had seen her, and appeared in these recordings to be genuinely distressed.
Son las 4:00 de la madrugada y no puedo dormir. Llevo todo el día pensando en mi amiga y me tiene el sueño quitado. Te quiero con locura y quiero saber algo de ti. Y el último que me queda ya por pedirte, por favor, que des señal de vida.
His followers responded with sympathy. No obvious reason for anyone watching to think they were seeing something other than what it appeared to be. Esther's family, however, had started to look more carefully. Josefa and her sister Raquel took the name the man had given them on the phone, José Jurado Montilla, and they searched it online. The family brought what they had found to the authorities, and the investigation into Esther's disappearance began to look very differently at the last person who had been with her. While investigators were looking into Esther's disappearance, a parallel development was taking place in connection with the 2022 murder of David. The DNA recovered from the zipper of David's backpack had not matched any profile in existing databases at the time. Investigators had since subjected it to forensic genealogical analysis, a technique that builds a family tree outward from a DNA sample, working through records to identify a probable source. The tree led, in time, to a single name, a name that was already appearing in a separate inquiry: José Jurado Montilla. At that point, 2 entirely separate cases, the murder of a 21-year-old student in August 2022 and the disappearance of a 42-year-old woman in August 2023, had converged around the same individual. Investigators had grounds to seek his arrest in connection with David's death, and they now needed to find him. This, in theory, should have been the difficult part. Montilla had no registered address and had never acquired one after leaving prison. He moved continuously, with no pattern that could be identified through conventional means. There was no vehicle registered to him, no utility account, no landlord with a contract. He was, in the administrative sense, essentially invisible. What he had, however, was a TikTok account that he had continued to post to regularly, and those videos, in their backgrounds, their incidental details of landscape and signage and geography, amounted to a running record of exactly where he had been, and, in the most recent ones, where he was. Two recent posts placed him in Extremadura, close to the Portuguese border. Officers were sent to the area. They found him in a bar. He was arrested on May 16, 2024, without resistance. According to the Spanish news outlets, he told those arresting him, If I had committed a murder, I wouldn't be exposing myself on social media. After his arrest, Montilla's mobile phone was seized and examined. On it, investigators found 7 photographs of a woman's body, taken outdoors in what looked like an open field. Her face was not visible in any of them. The images were sent to forensic specialists, who examined them carefully. A first assessment suggested that certain marks on the body had appeared after death, which, taken on its own, would not necessarily change the nature of what investigators were dealing with. But a second, independent report from the Valencia Legal Medicine Institute looked at the same photographs and had a very different conclusion. The marks, they said, weren't made after death. They were injuries that had been inflicted while the person was still alive, and their report described them as consistent with sexual assault. That distinction matters enormously in legal terms. It meant the prosecution was no longer looking only at a killing. They were looking at something worse. And they began exploring whether to seek the most severe sentence available under Spanish law. A form of permanent imprisonment with no fixed release date, reviewed periodically, but with no guarantee of ever ending. In Spain, it is reserved for the most serious cases. At the same time, investigators pieced together other parts of what had happened to Esther. Records from a taxi app showed that Esther had been collected from a location that turned out to be close to where her remains were later found. And the WhatsApp messages sent to her family on August 23rd, the ones talking about Argentina, the ones Josefa had known immediately were wrong, were confirmed not to have been written by Esther. Someone else had sent them from her phone, after she was already gone. On February 2nd, 2024, a group of walkers found a skull in a reed bed area near Gandia. DNA analysis confirmed that it was Esther. Her family had been living with the uncertainty for 6 months by that point. Montilla's TikTok account has since been removed from the platform. As of April 2026, José Jurado Montilla remains in preventive detention in Spain, awaiting trial in connection with the suspected murders of David in August 2022 and Esther Estepa in August 2023. He has denied any involvement in both cases. Prosecutors are considering seeking a life sentence in connection with Estepa's death. He hasn't been formally charged in every aspect of the case, and the investigation is still ongoing.